front orgs are bringing a lot of solar panels and stuff like that.
What they mean is they're bringing solar panels. They're bringing whatever medical supplies. They're bringing them to the communist government. Doing so continues to oppress the people. A lot's been going on in Cuba.
Good morning, guys. Welcome to the Associated Guest. I, as always, am your host, Alfie Animus, here at the Bear in Mind channel. Today, see, I can't actually say the actual title of the show for a few seconds, but we're going to get into a bunch of idiots taking things to a communist country to help. It's helping the dictators. This is a dictatorial regime down there. They think that we're dictators here in this country. Now, while our government keeps us in the dark on a lot of things, and they don't, they do things that are shady, it's just government's going to govern, basically. But most of what is going on in Cuba right now is due to the fascist dictatorship, the communist dictatorship that has been running that country for decades. Cuba now looks worse than Cuba did in 1920. I think I played a video of that the other day. But yeah, Cuba in the 1920s, there was cars, it was clean, there were shops, people wore the same clothes as they did in America. Nowadays, it's not so much. But we'll get into that, and then we'll just cut it a little bit with a little bit on One Piece, and then if we have time, then we'll see what's going on with everyone saying that MAGA is dead. And then tomorrow, unless there's anything crazy that happens today, then we'll get into some of the things that comedian Dave Smith and a few others have said. People are dumb, and they often comment on things based on, oh, I met a guy once, as opposed to actually knowing people within the community, knowing anything about the history of such things. And anyway, but continuing, let's get into it.
Cuba. I don't know if you've been paying attention. Just to give you an idea, they've actually burned down communist headquarters in Cuba. The power grid has failed. Their leader said that they're entering into talks with the United States. Like, a lot has been developing, and this has been sort of bubbling for 60 plus years. And you are going to see non-Cuban leftist socialists talk for Cubans and Cuban Americans, and then I'm just going to show you actual Cubans or Cuban Americans. And I will say this, it's not good, it's not right to generalize, because not all. But if it seems like I have a soft spot for Cuban Americans, I will say this. In my experience, and I mean hundreds, and then if you look at the data, it's supported, it is as close to an ethnic, I guess not racial, an ethnic and cultural monolith as I have ever seen. Meaning, I have never met a single, you guys comment if you have, I've never met a single Cuban American ever, even if some of them vote Democrat, not many, that doesn't check the boxes of hardworking, hardcore anti-communist to a militant degree, family-oriented. I've never met a single one who doesn't check all of those boxes and love America. Not one. I know they exist. I haven't really, I haven't Tim Kennedy, hunting Hitler type thing, but.
And you have to understand, America is different for different people. People who come here from horrible places love this place more than any other conservative could possibly love this place. The people who seem to hate it the most are the people who were born with the most privilege.
I don't think it's very common. And that's why this is interesting as it develops, and the left wants to gaslight you. Cuba, the countdown has started.
They're in big trouble.
Was that James Franco?
If I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned.
Epic quote.
Which, if people weren't paying attention, President Trump spoke this week, and you can go back to Marco Rubio. it really started with the Iranian nuclear enrichment facilities, and then dealing with the drug boats, and then taking out Maduro basically in the dead of night where nothing could be done because Cuba's effectively a proxy of Venezuela.
Their security forces were sent home in shoeboxes.
Yeah, I know.
They were.
And many of them were Cuban, to be clear. And this is also something a lot of people don't know. They send a lot of Cuban doctors over to like Brazil with their communist government right now. It really is just an absolute international game of fraud. But watching all of this and seeing that, wait, you can actually do things as president to affect change, Cuba knew that they were the next domino in line. And I think if you are reading the cards, you know they're about to fall.
You know, Cuba is a disaster.
You don't have the cards.
It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. It has no economy. It's in total collapse. And by the way, you know, they were, you know, all of the guards that helped protect Maduro, this is well known, their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, they basically, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba. They tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned.
I think Cuba, I don't know, in its own way, if you know, tourism and everything else, it's a beautiful island, great weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change. You know?
Wrong.
They won't be asking us for money for hurricanes every week. But I think Cuba's the end. You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're very.
I mean, I don't like when he says stuff like that
right now.
because it gives people ammunition against what he's doing.
Very violent leaders. Cuba right now
Albeit still true.
Very bad shape. They're talking to Marco, and we'll be doing something with Cuba very soon.
Do you support easing the trade embargo if you get more cooperation from Havana?
Well, I'm not going to discuss what we would talk about or not. Suffice it to say that the embargo is tied to political change on the island. The embargo is codified. And, but the bottom line is their economy doesn't work. It's a non-functional economy. It's an economy that has survived. That revolution, it's not even a revolution, that thing they have has survived on subsidies from the Soviet Union and now from Venezuela. They don't get subsidies anymore, so they're in a lot of trouble. And the people in charge, they don't know how to fix it.
And this is very much, it's congruent with sort of what we've seen with Iran. Now, to be clear, let me put aside, whether you agree with the intervention in Iran or not, that's not what we're discussing.
Hold on real quick. So Stuttering Craig, love him or hate him for whatever reason, but he says, anyone who doesn't like what Nick Shirley's doing, please walk me through exactly why in autistic detail. Because outside of last resort to calling him, outside of last resorting to call him an Isterophobe, that's not really a coherent sentence, I don't think. I don't think you have a whole lot, which is true. Funny thing is, the people in the comments who are giving him the most shit back on this, we don't need T9 go eyed to detail. He just days, there's fraud. You see this on a lot of these where they're not coherent sentences. These are either really dumb AI bots or people who are dumber than me. And I was raised in a meth house. So there's that. Was it active? No, it wasn't active, but previously on who lived in that place. And they didn't do a whole lot of cleaning before we moved in.
Discussing. Whether you agree with intervention in Cuba or not, that's not what we're discussing. And by the way, not a whole lot may need to be done. I don't think military action will be required in Cuba from what we're seeing. But the left and those on the right saying MAGA is dead, this is not in dispute. They would say, look, we're killing the Iranian people. Right? We're the ones responsible for what's actually going on in that area of the world. The people of Iran do not think so, to the tune of 80-something%. And they're going to say that's because of propaganda. You do realize they live under a regime whose job it requires that they propagandize their population, right? Same thing with Cuba, whether you think we should do anything or not. Okay? People here saying, we're the ones. in the Western world. We're the ones actually responsible for this. The Cuban people, we're going to go in, we're starving Cuban people. The Cuban people do not think that. Well, that's just because they've bought the propaganda from, I don't know, the U.S. or Israel. You do realize they live under a communist regime that is so heavy on propaganda that if you dare speak out against it, you get disappeared, right? So it means that despite propaganda from the left, and that's where it comes from, leftist Marxist propaganda telling you that Cuba is fine and we are harming them. It means that the Iranian people, despite propaganda from the Islamo-fascist Marxists telling them that it's America's fault, those people don't believe it. That is very important because I want to show you the gaslighting, the lying, talk about white privilege. The white privileged, the socialist Marxists telling you what you should think about Cuba versus actual Cubans. Let's start with Greta Thunberg, fresh off Saving the World from Vecna with her gayness, by the way.
How dare you?
Is going to, I don't know if you know this, bring a flotilla to Cuba to make sure, this is not a joke, that they can get them fossil fuels.
We need to talk about what's happening in Cuba right now.
We've come a long way, haven't we?
As the Trump administration is waging illegitimate wars across the world, killing countless of people, it is also strangling the Cuban people, deliberately, methodically, and openly. The pedophile Trump himself bragged about it, saying there's an embargo, there is no oil, there's no money, there's no anything. He said it like it was something to be proud of, while millions of people have been plunged into darkness by rolling blackouts, while hospitals lose power, while ambulances run out of fuel, while shelves go empty.
I'm really excited to see that I finally see a free Cuba in my lifetime.
It's all the talk in the Cuban exile community after 67 years of possibility of a free Cuba. This just days after President Donald Trump declared the U.S. is actively pursuing change in Cuba.
I think there is a lot of hope and change for Cuba.
They've been suffering for so many years. I mean, I think economically it'll open up jobs and open up opportunities for a lot of people.
But not everyone is convinced this alleged deal is the right way to go.
I think that they should really go in and just, take the Castros out, take Raul Castro out.
There's been 67 years of misery and devastation to a beautiful country, so it's time for a change.
And you know that they looked really hard. The closest they could find to someone blaming America was an older Cuban-American lady basically saying, I think that Trump and Rubio are kind of being pussy boys. They should take them all out.
Hey, you know one thing, too? The Venezuela thing kind of set a precedent for a lot of people. They might have had these opinions or thought these opinions, but after seeing Venezuela, after seeing that operation taking Maduro, they know how possible it is to have, minimal or no, I forget the word.
Casualties?
No, collateral. Collateral. Yeah, I couldn't think of the word. Dang, what an idiot.
Yeah. No.
But collateral.
I've been doing that a lot lately. Sometimes my brain doesn't work so brain.
Damage. They know it. So now they're like, yeah, do it.
Do it. Please do it. Let's go to another example. White privileged, non-Cuban socialists. And I know you'll go, how does Greta Thunberg justify condemning capitalists for burning fossil fuels, destroying the world, while demanding that capitalists allow communist countries to exclusively use fossil fuels? Her loyalty is to communism, Marxism. When push comes to shove, that's who they are. And you can check all the references as we do every single show. We stream 11 a.m. Eastern every day, and we give...
By the way, Greta Thunberg is mostly funded by the sons and daughters of the millionaires and the billionaires.
Give you a bibliography. Here's the next one. You're going to hear this from those on the left and those on the right saying MAGA is dead. President Trump is actually the one. He's committing war crimes. Non-Cubans versus actual Cubans.
David Adler says we're laying siege to the island of Cuba, turning off the lights in homes, hospitals, and the country's most critical infrastructure. These are war crimes, lethal, cruel, and criminal acts of collective punishment. It is sociopathy dressed up as foreign policy. I cannot explain to you how cruel this is and how banal it is treated as. This is a war crime that has been ongoing for the past 3 months now. And what blows my mind is that most Americans are completely oblivious to it.
Not oblivious. We just see shit like this of the people
I guess they didn't get the memo.
Actually in Cuba. And notice how calm this is. Notice how even though they're lighting the capital, the communist capital or the headquarters ablaze, they are not acting crazy. They aren't acting like any kind of barbarians. They're out there celebrating their soon-to-be found freedom.
Couple of notes there. Yeah, they are burning down key communist buildings, headquarters. I don't know every single one in those videos. But do you notice the people aren't violently attacking each other? It's not a riot.
Yeah.
It's targeted civil uprising. That's the difference between a legitimate one and an illegitimate one that's astroturfed. You've never heard me say.
And people ask, what's the difference between this and what's going on in America? Well, in this country, in Cuba, people have fled that country to America, one, because it sucks there because of the communist regime. Two, there's no counter other than the oppressing force of the government as far as protesting goes. And three, these people actually live there. These people have lived there. They didn't go to Cuba for opportunity or government handouts or whatnot, and then complain when someone came into power that didn't want to give them that. And then they started with the rioting, the pillaging, and the setting things ablaze. These people have actually been through it. And where they stay sucks. People didn't go to Cuba to set things on fire. People are tired of living, 67 years of a communist dictatorial regime. And they've had it. They see what's going on in countries so close to them. And they've never been able to have any of that. They see what their grandparents have talked about if their pictures haven't been taken from said oppressive communist regime to try to wash that history away.
Political violence is never okay. I've told you, I'm not going to lie to you. Of course sometimes it is. That's why we have a country. But you can tell how authentic it is by whether they coalesce and if they are consistent in their target. They don't like those communists. Also, the single biggest fail-safe, bulwark, whatever you want to call it, against Marxism is the United States. Period. Europe ain't going to do it. That's why these people hate America. And they don't want Cuba to experience the prosperity and liberty that those in the United States do. Because that's why, if the United States goes in, it's an evil empire, right? They're military intervention. MAGA's dead. No forever wars. Like Venezuela, I guess it's a forever war. And then if we do nothing, but we just say we're going to enforce the embargo, we're not going to be trading with them. War crime. War crime. So the answer is, this is their ultimate solution. Do nothing and allow communism to flourish on an island which you could hit if you threw a rock from the right part of Florida, and an island where people don't want it and can't afford shoes and can't afford food, and because they've been systemically disarmed because of the policies that you support, just leave. That's their solution. Do nothing. No military intervention and no levers to pull that are nonviolent. Getting foundation, feeling the conservatism, MAGA is dead, is the left, and people trying to tell you that conservatism, MAGA is dead.
Sorry, I thought he said the same tism I did. I was like, cool. But no, I'm an asshole.
Is that they want America to lose, and they still want communism to exist. That's why I'm still pro-killing commies. Here's the next one. White privilege. It's these people, it's these Western Marxists who are going to save the Cuban people. Non-Cubans versus actual Cubans.
Cuba stood up for the world, and now it is time for the world to stand up for Cuba.
When did Cuba stand up for the world?
On the 21st of March, the Nuestra America convoy arrives in Havana, carrying humanitarian aid by air, land, and sea. That day has been declared the International Day of Solidarity with Cuba. And I'm asking all of you, every
you mean solidarity with the Cuban government, with
the
communists?
Right of peoples to determine their own futures, to join.
Not only are we bringing medical aid and solar panels, because like the Answer Coalition and like the PSL front orgs are bringing a lot of.
I will say one thing that I respect more about Greta Thunberg than I do people like Hassan Piker. I believe Greta Thunberg will be there herself. Whether that's bravery, stupidity, whatever, I at least respect that much. Hassan Piker will sit in his mansion, shocking his dog, and talk about these things. He might throw money, but will he actually be involved? Probably not. Will I eat crow if he does go? No, because the man went to China, got detained for a meme, and still talks no shit about China and all the shit about America. Get stuffed.
Of solar panels and stuff like that.
To the communist government.
But then on top of that, like the goal there is to just like show Americans like what the regular experiences for regular Cuban folks actually look like on the island.
Well, thanks for letting us know.
Because there's obviously
we see that
somewhat of a communication blackout from American media as far as like their everyday existence of Cubans. You can just go to Cuba. Like even right now, you can just go to Cuba.
No, you can't.
Pero estos
Let her cook.
No paran de hacer el ridículo. Socotroques. Only description applicable. La caravana convoy to Cuba para que llevar 3 latas de leche en polvo. We all know that they go there to whitewash the regime's face.
Yes.
That's what they do. What they've always done. You know who's joining Greta and company? And you know who also is joining DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, an organization to which politicians like AOC and Mamdani belong to.
Yeah.
So DSA is joining the convoy to Cuba. Conta pensar who is supporting the Cuban regime and turning their backs on the actual Cuban people. You know who was never allowed to Cuba to see her dead mother because she didn't agree with the regime? Celia Cruz. You know who's not allowed to return to Cuba today? Ana Melis Ramos, Cuban dissident. No plane on the United States would let her board because she's banned from her own country for disagreeing with the socialist communist regime. You know who's not allowed to go to Cuba? Rosa Maria Paya, daughter of dissident that was murdered by the Cuban
like Cubans.
regime. She's not allowed. And thousands of Cubans are not allowed to enter their own country because they've been banned by the regime because they disagree with the communist oppression that we've had for 67 years. So spare me, la pila de descarados that are trying
I love this shit.
to spew their propaganda con sus patadas de ahogados. Libertad para Cuba.
That's a bad bitch.
Yes.
I would love to see her across from Hassan
No kidding.
or Greta, though them side by side.
I just want to see the
is
look
not
on his
fair.
face when she switches to Spanish on him.
Let's be honest. And Greta has youth on her side. It's important when these people say, "Oh, we're killing," they're doing the bidding of the Iranian government.
Yeah.
When people say we're bringing, what they mean is they're bringing solar panels. They're bringing whatever medical supplies. They're bringing them to the communist government. And doing so continues to oppress the people, just to be clear. It's like an addict. If you enable them, it harms everyone around them. Just be really, really clear. Anyone who says, we are against killing Iranians, what you mean is you're against killing the people who oppress and rape Iranians. You can be against intervention, but don't conflate the two. When you say, we're against what we're doing to the Cuban people, they don't have anything anyway. You're against what is being done to squeeze the communist government. Let's be really clear about that. You won't find a Cuban American who agrees with you, Hassan, Greta. Insert horseshoe right here. Here's the next one. It's the United States embargo. That's why Cuba is poor in the first place. It's our fault. Non-Cuban socialists versus actual Cubans.
Since 1962, the U.S. embargo has been designed, in the words of the U.S. State Department itself, to bring about hunger, desperation, and overthrow the government. Now the Trump administration is...
That last part, yes. And like I said yesterday, the prolonged suffering of the Cuban people has been due to us flip-flopping on this instead of doing this exact thing much, much sooner.
escalating it further, plotting what they themselves have called a takeover.
As opposed to you wanting to overthrow
daily
duly
blackouts,
elected
food
government.
scarcity, and a critical shortage of medicine as a result of the U.S. embargo.
Let's start with food and medicine. The U.S. exports hundreds of millions of dollars in food to Cuba every single year.
Whoops.
And it isn't just food. U.S. law allows medicine and medical supplies to be sold to Cuba under license. Matter of fact, one of Cuba's biggest food suppliers is the United States itself, especially when it comes to poultry. So yeah, the same people that are allegedly starving them are their biggest food supplier. And even if they didn't trade with the U.S., they still trade with the rest of the world. China, Spain, Canada, Brazil, Mexico, Russia. Cuba trades internationally. So what blockade? The question is, who ends up receiving them? Because if shortages were the actual problem, then nobody would have anything. But when some have everything and others have nothing, what does that mean?
It's communism.
It's a distribution problem. Nothing to do with scarcity. So when it comes to Cuba, the U.S. is not the problem, the Cuban people are not the problem. It's the socialist system and the communist dictatorship that are the problem.
Somebody better send the memo to Greta. Isn't it funny? They're trying to get the people to uprise against their government, whereas you were trying to delegitimize actual elected government. So you don't have a problem with a government that has been in power for 60-plus years with no legitimate elections in recent memory. Let's be honest. What you want is communism. By the way, there is a study. The definitive study on the topic concluded, let's bring this up, 90% of Cuba's economic problems are due to communist policies, not the embargo. You can go check the references. Also, here is a picture of their well-fed leaders, just to be clear. Yeah, while the people starve and can't afford shoes,
just push this
Castro
first row of
would send
fat
out
fucks
private
over.
jets to bring him back Serrano hams. I'm just using it as a specific example because I know that you'll remember it. He did it all the time. That's what happens in communism. You will never find an exception. They don't exist, historically. Now, here's a bonus for you. Even the Cuban Americans are maybe second generation and were sort of saturated with public schools. And I have encountered these Cuban Americans who maybe vote Democrat because they have a bent of feminism or they think Donald Trump is mean. They still are very conflicted because when push comes to shove, they understand the evils of communism and socialism. Here's a woman living that in real time. God bless her.
It's just so fucked up because there's two choices right now for Cubans, for the Cuban people. Die or be saved by this fucking man. I didn't even know que más decirle because there was a lot worse. Die or be saved. And yeah, I know people.
I would pick.
I would choose death. Yeah,
be saved.
For you to say, it's not your grandmother. When it's not you. When it's not you. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, so it's like her feminists are like, Donald Trump is mean, but people are dying.
Is that like liberal feminist guilt?
It's like it's the westernized feminist guilt, right? The false
guilt. Very distorted.
But I know. So at some point, she's going to probably come to the truth, and that's also why you really shouldn't put your kids in public schools. And Cuban Americans, it's your job to teach the next generation what it is that you went through. So right now, to discuss this, because I don't want you to take my word for it, like LeVar Burton, we go to Luis, he'll clarify, a Cuban citizen, to give us some insight as to what's happening on the ground in Cuba. Luis from Cuba.
Okay, yeah, we're not doing this.
Thank you for taking...
Okay, but look, I know I haven't said much on this, but there's a lot I'm taking in. And this shit is sad that people are fighting, people who don't live there. Like, if the people of this country were fighting back and saying that they didn't want this, then 100%, we should back out. Same with Venezuela, same with Iran. But these people, the people of Iran especially, have asked for this. Hey, Shapeshifter, how you doing? But that being said, we're going to jump into... Look, I love anime. I like when... I get excited when they're going to do a new one. And then I wasn't so excited because really crappy ones like Death Note. Death Note, the anime, fantastic. And the manga, fantastic. The live-action American version sucks, and I'm not talking about the so-called whitewashing, because if you're making something in another country, it's going to be whitewashed. The difference is a lot of anime accounts for this. It's made for mainstream appeal, broad stream appeal. But I was starting to lose hope after Cowboy Bebop was so horrible, except for they did one race swap. I can't remember his name, the name of the character, but they switched him from white to black. And the guy who played him, awesome. He embodied that character. Very well cast. But they changed his story quite a bit. They added a lot to it, which took away from his character mostly. But anyway, we'll get into this. And then One Piece came out, and it was some of the most hopeful, inspirational stuff that I've ever seen. And it was entertaining. Had a lot of heart to it, and it was wonderfully cast. Some people are so wonderfully cast, I don't think they're real people. But let's continue to see what the Critical Drinker thought. One of the quote-unquote chuds who normally hate on things, because there is a lot of race swapping in here, but it's not always integral to who the character is, and people aren't talking about it, because most of the time you know one of these things is going to be horrible when people start talking about, oh, we did this or we did that, or LGBT or gay, or we have so many characters that are black instead of Asian or white. When they start talking about all these diverse things before they start talking about the plot or the story or how much passion they had for this project because of those two things, you usually know it's going to suck. It's going to suck so much, like all of Marvel or Star Wars or anything owned by Disney for the last 10 years mostly. But this came out, and everyone started talking about their love of the characters that they're playing, about the love of the series, about their love of anime in general. And they got Oda, the guy who wrote the manga, and did he write? He's very in the source material. I'm pretty sure he's the writer, and he has a lot to do with the anime, and he's had to sign off on everything for this, which is wonderful. And but yeah, anyway, so we're gonna get in to see what the Critical Drinker thinks about this. Someone who would normally hate something that has this much quote-unquote forced diversity, but they're not throwing it in your face. They're not pushing the message. They're just doing things. But the race swaps that they do don't take away from the characters. They don't make it themselves. They take in who the character is, and it's wonderfully done. But let's see what the drinker says, and if he agrees with me, he will.
Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. You know, when it comes to adapting popular animes into live action for Western audiences, it seems like there's two paths you can take. Path number one is to try to make it grounded and realistic, taking the wilder story elements, the outlandish, larger-than-life characters, and the big melodramatic emotional payoffs, and forcing it into the safe, comfortable, predictable Hollywood molds. Path number two, on the other hand, is to...
And I will say, whoever did like the cinematography or whatever, whoever lined up the shots and the camera angles and all that, they did a fantastic job. It was everything else that was not so great.
To just go all
because it was the same people.
Embracing every ounce of over-the-top insanity, reveling in the ridiculous character designs, wildly vibrant personalities, and physics-defying battle scenes, and celebrating all the things that made the source material so popular in the first place. Path number one leads to dreary, disappointing sludge like Cowboy Bebop, hated by fans of the original and largely ignored by normies. Not helped by the decision to hire an actress who was wildly unsuited to the role she was playing and decided to lash out at the...
And it's not because she's looks like a boy. It's because they changed the character itself from femme fatale to... basically just female Spike. She's just awful. She's also in the Jurassic World sequels, the first two Jurassic World sequels. Or no. Yeah. The first two Jurassic World sequels. And she's just the worst. She's literally the character she plays in that. But she's very unlikable, and she started off, before the show even came out, disrespecting the fan base. Why? Because of what a few chuds said online? When you do that, when you throw out the whole broadcast, when you spray into a crowd based off what a couple of people are chortling at you, people are going to go into this hating you and the show, no matter what.
Entire fan base for pointing out that very obvious fact.
You are made of stupid.
Path 2, on the other hand, leads to the glorious
And look, I've heard a couple people, and ironically, they're on the left, that don't like him being Hispanic for Luffy. I think this kid is going to go far, and I hope his career flourishes even beyond this. I hope it doesn't flourish to the point where he can't do the show anymore. I want him to stay with the show forever, but his energy, he is Luffy, 100%. There's no, like, she's fantastic, and Zoro's amazing, and everyone's very well cast, but this kid, they could have had this whole same cast or even a somehow better cast, and if this person was miscast, the whole show would have been for naught. And this kid, I don't remember his name because it's not a common name. I apologize, but he's glorious in this role. If you have not seen the live-action One Piece show on Netflix, watch it. It's wonderful. It's not a long watch. It's 8 episodes per season. I think roughly like an hour-long episode each. But just watch it. Treat yourself. It's uplifting. It's got a great message. It's got great heart behind it. It's got a love for everything that they're doing. It's okay. I'm gonna stop.
Energetic insanity of One Piece that came out of nowhere back in 2023, grabbed the world by the balls and said, "This is how it's fucking done." And it was, neatly proven that anime can be adapted for live action, and it can appeal to a wide audience as long as you respect the source material and keep the important elements that made it unique in the first place. The only question now was, would Season 2 be able to keep the momentum going after a 3-year
And they actually built the ship,
Jesus,
the Mary.
Has it really been 3 years already? Or would Netflix do what Netflix does best and fuck up a good thing once they'd hooked people in by
I was
trying to
terrified when Season 2 finally dropped.
Audience. Well, and I almost can't believe I'm saying this, but somehow they actually did One Piece justice. Again.
No way. Yes way.
Neatly continuing the adventures of Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates in their quest to navigate the Grand Line and recover the One Piece, adding a rogues gallery of new enemies and factions with their own goals and objectives, expanding the lore and the world building, working in some surprisingly poignant moments of drama and pathos, and delivering some of the most unapologetically, beautifully over-the-top set pieces and confrontations I've ever seen.
Yo, this 100-man fight scene where Zoro, pretty much by himself, I think, fights 100 people, wonderfully choreographed, and this is due to the love of the art form from the guy who plays Roa Noa Zoro himself. Roa Noa Zoro. It's a tongue twister a bit for me. He pushed to get some fight choreographer from Japan, I think, to get involved with this, and the dude, wonderful. Probably one of the best action set pieces of this kind.
In live action. Not to mention some pretty impressive eye candy.
I mean,
well done, Netflix. I salute you.
Great success.
Before I launch into my full plot summary, a quick word from this video's sponsor. But hey, if you'd rather continue on without changing course, skip to this time code now. Now, you might be in... Anyway, on with our adventure. So the season picks up with Luffy, Nami, and the rest of the gang aboard the Going Merry, who are on a quest to
leaving the
recover
code down there in case you want to
a
support the
legendary
drinker.
treasure left behind by Gold Roger, the most famous pirate of the age, who was eventually captured and executed. To get to it, they have to navigate the Grand Line, a notoriously dangerous stretch of ocean that encircles the world, where conventional navigation is impossible, monsters roam the high seas, and dangers await around every corner. Now, this is all difficult enough, but they're also being pursued by two different factions.
They even left in the booger flicker.
First up, there's the Marines, led by Luffy's estranged grandfather, who represents the closest thing to law and order in the world of One Piece. And on the other hand, there's Baroque Works, a kind of organized crime network with an army of flamboyant assassins at their disposal, led by the mysterious Mr. Zero. And while all this is going on, the crew also happens to pick up a young woman who turns out to be the exiled princess of Alabasta, the very kingdom that Baroque Works are out to destabilize so they can get their hands on a world-ending superweapon.
Boy, that
That escalated quickly.
So, needless to say, there's kind of a lot going on in this season, and it would take me hours to recap everything that happens over the 8 episodes. Plus, I don't really want to spoil it for you anyway, so I'll keep this summary pretty vague and just say that the season accomplishes several things and does them very effectively. It moves the main narrative forward while leaving room for plenty of side quests and individual adventures. It expands on the world and the various factions and groups that are all working towards their own goals, deepens our understanding of the main characters and their relationships, and introduces some new faces that add a different dimension to the group dynamic. It keeps the playful, optimistic, adventurous tone of the first season, but it's also not afraid to take its characters and stories to some pretty
And this episode, so this girl, she paints different colors on you, and depending on what color she paints on you, you're stuck in that emotion, whether it be like lethargy or sadness or whatever. But it's the extreme of that. And showing the range of especially the kid playing Luffy is so good. And it's kind of heartbreaking because he's always this optimistic, upbeat character, and he gets the little blue circle painted on his face. And like you could see like just like the tragedy in his eyes where anyway, and this girl basically embodies Psycho ex-girlfriend.
Places at times. It gives every member of the gang a chance to shine and develop, and now that their backstories have been laid out in Season 1, the writers are free to focus on forward momentum as they each strive to achieve their goals, realize their dreams, or overcome their weaknesses and fears. The cast all play well off each other, and it feels like both the writers and the actors have settled into their characters now. Each has their own skills and areas of expertise. They're not afraid to compete and bicker with each other at times, but it never feels like any particular character is being elevated or pushed at the expense of others. And here's the thing, they are so fucking likable and unique, it's almost ridiculous that Netflix were able to accomplish this. Luffy's the eternally cheerful, optimistic leader who dreams.
And this dude, he looks just like he embodies his character too. Usopp. Oh my god. Anyway, sorry.
Of adventure and glory, and is never afraid to lead his crew into danger to get to it. Nami is the dedicated navigator with a mercenary streak that hides a more compassionate core. Usopp is the cowardly sniper who aspires to live up to the legend he's created for himself. Zoro is the cool and deadly sword fighter, always pushing himself to equal his former mentor. And Sanji is the smooth-talking ladies man who dreams of being the greatest chef in the world and is always competing against Zoro. They are a bunch of absolute misfits, but they really do feel like a gang of friends going off on an adventure together because they want to do it. For once, it's not a bunch of unlikable assholes who hate each other, forced to work together by circumstances, because it's just so terribly original to watch people arguing and yelling at each other while trying to accomplish a task. Isn't it, James?
Yeah, he turned out to be a one-trick pony, huh?
Shit about each other. They party and hang
Well,
out together
after
even
it became
when they're on
hugely
shore leave,
successful.
and they show genuine concern when one of them gets into trouble. I don't know, man. It's just nice to watch a show where the team dynamic is something more than just who can fire off the most witty put down. And that's not to overlook the antagonists either, who usually have several layers of development and motivation behind their outlandish styling, and are almost always pursuing their own objectives no matter who they happen to be working for. Even amongst the villains, there's these interesting little explorations of loyalty, honor, and friendship. And damn, man, for a show about talking snails and wigs with hidden machine guns inside, there is some pretty sophisticated character development going on.
Yeah,
That
there
being
really
said,
is.
I think Smoker might actually be my favorite just because he looks so fucking cool. Any man that can smoke 2 cigars at the same time is alright with me. Then there's the tone. Like I said before, this is a direct adaptation of an anime, which itself...
By the way, the person who's going to play that character is said to be the kid from Cobra Kai, the main kid. I can't think of his name. I haven't watched the show in forever. But if that's true, that would be amazing casting. I'm just saying. And another Netflix darling who started off as a YouTube darling, kind of.
Was adapted from a manga that's been going for 30 years now and spans over 1,000 chapters in more than 100 volumes.
Yeah.
Fuck. Jesus Christ, whatever Ichiro Odo's been using, I want some. Anyway, the point is that if you go into One Piece expecting its world and characters to adhere to the laws of geography, physics, engineering, technological development, or even normal human behavior, you are going to be left very fucking confused. You will see and hear things in One Piece that you might not have known you wanted, but it turns out you absolutely needed. This is a show that you absolutely have to take on its own terms and accept the hyperactive, hyper-stylized reality that it presents you. That's not a criticism, it's just a fair warning that the writing philosophy behind it is very different from almost anything else that gets made over here. And you know what? That is a fucking good thing.
It really
is. It's good to try new stuff once in a while, experience different cultures and new ways of telling stories, and if you're able to embrace the glorious madness of One Piece, I think you'll have an absolute blast with it. I know I did.
So,
thanks to
don't say
Surfshark
blast
for
when you show
today's
that.
Video. Don't forget to go to surfshark.com/drinker and use code DRINKER at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN for free. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Yeah, make sure you support the Drinker. He puts out a lot of really great content. But yeah, and watch this show. If you just want to see something different, especially the first season, if you want to see something optimistic, hopeful, something that'll pull you out of a rut or anything like that, because it did me quite a bit. This show, on top of a couple other really great things that have been happening recently, have pulled me out of probably one of the darkest times of my life. And I'm eternally grateful, and I will forever love this show because of that. It's amazing how different forms of art can speak to you in such ways, whether it be music, paintings, drawings, actually trying to make any of these things, or a really good show that checks all the boxes, and the right ones. But anyway, continuing back to the real world, unfortunately, and let's check out and see what Crowder says about CNN saying, is MAGA dead?
Let me tell you right now, MAGA is dead.
MAGA GOP view of Trump. Approve. One.
Tell you the state of affairs. I bring you tidings of great joy if you don't want the United States to descend into leftist madness. Like, if you don't want President Newsom, if you're still glad that we don't have President Harris, if that's you, this is good. If it's not you, but you say that you're conservative or MAGA, you may not like this. So you've heard, MAGA is dead. The conservative movement is done. Betrayal. Former beauty pageant contestant, she was Carrie Prejean, I guess now Bowler. She said this on Piers Morgan, and a lot of people actually believe this. This is a sentiment out there right now designed to gaslight you.
I think that a foreign country has occupied our government, and we are seeing now that this president of the United States of America is being influenced by a foreign government. And MAGA, let me tell you right now, MAGA is dead. It is deader than dead, and Americans are furious.
It's not true.
What Israel wants, Israel gets. And
That's
we're
not true.
witnessing that. And I'm telling you right now.
Again, for the love of God, this unfettered hatred of Israel, I do not understand it. Like, I understand not liking Netanyahu, but the fact that these people stand with organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah and the Iranian dictatorship and over the Iranian people is baffling to me. People are protesting the death of Ayatollah Khomeini. I do not get this. And it's always overprivileged, stupid people like this who are nothing but, fake titties and overuse of makeup and usually wigs or hair extensions.
MAGA is dead. And we will not vote for one more politician who lies to us and says, oh, we're going to drain the swamp and we're going to not get involved in foreign wars. Trump has betrayed our country.
No, he says he hasn't gotten involved in foreign wars. But then it became necessary. People called out and asked for Trump's help, and whether or not that's the reason that he did it, he did it.
Betrayed MAGA.
Many people share your misgivings about this. Notwithstanding that, the polling...
And I'm not a MAGA guy. I agree with him on certain things. I disagree with him on a lot. But this is not a betrayal. Not if you've been paying attention. Look, just because you're angry, you do not speak for the entirety of any kind of people, okay? Got that, everyone on social media? You talk to your friends. You are not the everyday average American. I do not believe that you speak for the everyday average American. Mostly, God, those chompers. This is not your best angle. No. Again, just because Israel also benefits from something does not mean we are doing said thing for Israel. What? She's already don't like Trump because he fired her for not going to work. Yeah. I love this guy. I don't care what he says. He's always just like the kid that plays Luffy. Always very high energy. I love it. One of the top 3 stingers. She hates him. That's crazy. I mean, that is a good idea. You know, that is smart. I am. Yeah, that's generally how it's been going. And I will say, eventually, socialism, when we get to the, make everything on a replicator or whatever it's called from Star Trek day, 100%, we can have socialism then. And it will probably be good if we have a better mindset, probably like they do in actual Star Trek, as opposed to movie or Kirkman Trek. But
I don't think he's conservative.
No, I don't.
Not at all. I think he's a left-wing guy, but
he loves his job.
Yeah, he loves his job, but even he's like.
Did you see him pacing? Can you go to that pacing before he goes up? He's like a fighter, like rolling. He's like,
yeah, baby, here we go.
Can't wait. He's itching. I think they turn his mic off.
Yeah.
I think they have like a shotgun mic up top or something, and they turn his off. Cause I hear an echo, and I'm like, he's loud.
I bet you.
He's excited.
Yeah. Turn it on when he goes to the bathroom. Wow, look at that! What a stream!
How are you seeing MAGA feel about?
Look, he's pacing. He's like, here we go!
Cocaine, man.
Look at this.
Look at this. This is what I trained for. What were you gonna say? Something?
Listen, MAGA's not dead. I think people like her and other people have focused so much on Israeli foreign influence that they've forgotten about Qatari foreign influence or Saudi Arabian foreign influence, or pick any other foreign influence that's
How
out
about
there
domestic
they used
influence?
to yell about.
The Democrat Party.
Yes, all of it.
You couldn't fit a pencil between the Democrat Party's talking points right now and the people telling you, no, I really am MAGA, even though I haven't been here until the last 2 years, and I was anti-Trump. I am MAGA now, and I'm telling you it's dead. Let's just get rid of the foreign influence.
Period.
Democrat Party, their allegiance is to communism, just to be clear. And I'll get to Cuba in a second, and I mean that. Everything else is a thin, it's a veneer. Environmentalism, social justice. Their one and true allegiance is to communism, socialism, Marxism. I mean that. That's the founder of their feast. They have plenty of influence. You know this because you thought that was the case in every major election ever. But now somehow they're lying dormant. Oh, you're still here, which is a miracle.
But yeah. People will always come in and join something for 5 minutes and then claim that they're the real thing and then try to march everyone out. It's a classic tactic. You see this from people like Amber in season, 4 of House, where she's like, yeah, I'm tired of this. Let's all leave. And then half the people leave and then, hey, here I am back again. It's the honeypot. But seriously, those were some big chompers. But no. Anyway, that's all we got for today. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. Just remember, most people, especially most influencers, Greta Thunberg, her opinions aren't on her own. Hassan Piker, Diddy Bin Laden Piker, is a millionaire. He's always been a millionaire. His father was allegedly a Turkish billionaire. His uncle, Cenk Uygur, gave him his first real job, and he's never had to ask for anything in his life. He gets by the fact that he agrees with current thing, no matter what current thing is, and he goes with the mainstream 100% every time, except for, every now and then he strays from his base when he goes full on for people like Hezbollah. But as you can see, most of the left tends to go boot to boot when it comes to that. But anyway, just form your own opinions. That's all I ever ask. Be a free thinker. If you have enough time to be emotional about something, you have enough time to make sure that you're being emotional about the right thing and that you're not just listening to stupid people who have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. But that being said, guys, I've been Alfie Animus. This has been the Associated Guest. I appreciate you all for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow.